What happens when the most successful pilot in history launches a media bomb against the most legendary team of Formula One? Are we facing the beginning of the end of Ferrari, or your last chance to be reborn? The Canada 2025 Grand Prix should be a turning point for Ferrari. After a series of irregular results and a growing media pressure, the team reached the Gilles-Villeneuve circuit hoping to show signs of tangible progress. The conditions seemed favorable, a layout that has historically benefited cars with good traction and peak speed, two aspects where Ferrari believed to have improved from winter. Lewis Hamilton, despite his limited time in the team, trusted that this weekend could, at least, return part of the lost illusion. But the reality was very different. From the beginning of the weekend, the SF25 gave worrying signs. The car was nervous in the braking and lacking confidence in slow curves. The data collected in the practices already indicated a loss of aerodynamic efficiency against its main rivals. However, what transformed mediocre performance into a catastrophe was an incident as absurd as revealing. In the first career laps, Hamilton hit a marmot that crossed the track. The damage was not only anecdotal. The impact critically reduced the aerodynamic load of the car, estimated at approximately 20 points, a huge figure in a structurally compromised car. From that moment on, Hamilton's career became a torture. Not only should it deal with a clearly damaged car, but that damage magnified all weaknesses already present in SF25. The lack of traction in curve output, high-speed instability, and above all, a dramatic disability to turn in medium radius curves, where other cars remained planted and consistent. Each turn was a reminder that something did not work in Ferrari. They were not just strategic errors, it was not just the lack of adaptation of the British pilot. It was a set of systemic failures that were obvious as they faced stress conditions. The frustration became visible from the radio. Hamilton did not yell, but each message transmitted a mixture of resignation, disconnection, and contained rage. At one point, he was more than 40 seconds from the leader and 22 seconds from his teammate Charles Leclerc, despite having started 3 positions ahead. This difference was not only painful from the sports, but devastating for the moral of a pilot accustomed to fighting for titles and not to survive in the middle of the table. What really raised the magnitude of the moment was what happened next. In front of the media, instead of looking for excuses or hiding in the incident with the animal, Hamilton decided to speak. And when Lewis Hamilton speaks with sincerity and without filters, the paddock listens. "There are many things happening in the background," he said, with a serenity that contrasted with the seriousness of his words. "I can't say much more about it. There are so many things that I would like to tell you that they could explain what is happening this year." It was the first time that the 7-times world champion publicly broke the facade of unity and trust that Ferrari has always tried to project. Ferrari not only lost a great prize that Sunday, he lost control of the story. And when that happens in Formula One, the effects are unpredictable. In a matter of minutes, the headlines went from talking about results to talk about crisis, internal fractures, possible radical changes. And all for a marmot, a failed car, and a pilot who decided not to shut up anymore. This was where the fire began truly. And in modern Formula One, a fire does not always turn off with water. Sometimes, everything must be raised and start from scratch. That type of confessions are exceptional. When a pilot such as Hamilton launches such a statement without roading, he does it because he knows that continuing to hide the truth not only does it work, but can make things worse. What reveals his speech is not only frustration but also leadership. Not the leadership that occurs on the track with spectacular overtaking or heroic poles, but the one that implies responsible for causing real internal change. "I'm here to build a base," he said. SF25 problems are not merely performance. They are symptoms of an organizational culture that seems to be stuck in the past. The complaints of the pilots that the car does not rotate, which does not respond in slow curves, which loses load in transition areas are not only aerodynamic design failures. They are the reflection of a deep disconnection between the technical departments, the simulators, the decisions on track, and the real needs of the car in race conditions. During the race in Canada, Hamilton's radio witnessed this disconnection. The pilot asked for changes, adjustments, solutions, but did not get answers that showed control or forecast. We are not talking only about a car with a bad balance. We are talking about a structure that does not know how to evolve your car against new technical challenges. The same happened in Australia, where the performance of both Ferrari was erratic. And it was repeated in China, where even with more favorable conditions, the team could not extract consistent competitive rhythm, leaving Leclerc fighting to survive in the dot zone and Hamilton in a battle against frustration. It is not coincidence. It is a pattern. At the technical level, the SF25 has shown obvious failures in several key areas. The mass distribution seems unbalanced, which affects the behavior of the car in long braking and compromises traction in curve outputs. In addition, the aerodynamic development of the car has regression signs. Updates implemented in the last 2 weekends have not generated improvements of time, and some rumors from the paddock indicate that the data of the wind tunnel are not correlating with those of the track, one of the worst possible scenarios for any team. This also affects the internal dynamics of the team. Leclerc, which until now had been Ferrari's public face, begins to show signs of discomfort. In his post-carrier statements, he no longer hides his skepticism and his distance from the official speech of the team. In China, after suffering a touch with Hamilton and shooting with the damaged front wing, Leclerc decided not to change the piece, which suggests a loss of confidence in the wall strategy. This type of unilateral decisions by the pilot are usually reflection of deeper internal tensions. The collateral effect of this situation is that Ferrari is not only losing performance, it is losing cohesion. And in Formula One, when the pilot stops believing in the team and the team stops trusting his car, everything falls apart in chain. The wear is multiplied, the solutions do not arrive, and the faults begin to circulate between departments. Hamilton, in this context, seems to have positioned itself as a breakup figure. His arrival to Ferrari was seen by many as symbolic, almost romantic. But today, after only a few great prizes, that image has changed radically. Lewis is no longer the heir of red passion. He is the man who could force an internal revolution. He no longer seeks to adapt to the environment. You are willing to transform it. And like every revolution, change may not be soft or comfortable or immediate. But perhaps, for the first time in years, Ferrari has someone with character, experience, and determination to initiate that reconstruction that have promised, and nobody has achieved. There are moments in the history of Formula One where a pilot not only competes, it leads to something bigger than a championship. In the case of Lewis Hamilton, what we are seeing after the Canada 2025 GP is much more than a bad streak with a poor car. It is a calculated, cold, possibly strategic movement. He did not come to Ferrari just to compete. He came to leave a brand that transcends sports. And now, after only a few races, your plan begins to be clearly revealed. Transforming from within, even if it implies breaking everything first. Lewis Hamilton knows the weight of his name. It is not simply a multiple world champion. It is a figure of moral and technical authority within the paddock. When speaking with the forcefulness with the one who did it in Montreal, he did it from a position that no other pilot can match. He is aware that every word of his rumbles in the halls of Maranello, that each phrase triggers headlines, institutional pressure, and deep reflections between Ferrari's high controls. Its objective, then, is not only to communicate frustration, but to cause a reaction, an answer, a change. When he says that he wants to positively influence and build a base for long-term success, he is not speaking in abstract. It is drawing a dividing line. Or Ferrari evolves in its structure, or its time as a competitive project is condemned to irrelevance. Because historical greatness does not win championships in the modern era. Formula One no longer rewards tradition. It rewards impeccable execution, technical flexibility, constant innovation, and effective organizational structure. And that is where Hamilton has detected the crack. And that resistance is real. Ferrari is a hierarchical structure, traditionalist, where decisions are still filtered by internal policy layers. Unlike Mercedes or McLaren, where the voice of the elite pilot has direct influence on development, in Ferrari many times the weight of the past prevents hearing the present. Hamilton knows it, and that's why he is not asking permission. He is breaking the door. The tension with Charles Leclerc is another evidence that the change is already underway. The relationship between the two, although cordial, has never been symbiosis. On the track they have had friction, such as the touch at the exit of the China GP. But outside it, the most revealing is the contrast in speech. Leclerc, internal product of the Scuderia, continues to speak in terms of equipment, collective improvement, joint work. Hamilton, on the other hand, already speaks from the perspective of someone who leads a change. That points out what does not work, that exposes what was so silent, that launches challenges in public. Hamilton's real plan then seems clear, to become the catalyst for Ferrari's modernization. He doesn't seek to adapt to what there is. It seeks to impose a new way of operating. It is demanding more aggressive technical investments, reorganization of key departments, more connection between factory and track, and above all, fast decisions. Ferrari's conservative approach is incompatible with his vision of success. And if the team does not respond, it will not be Hamilton who changes course. it will be the one who accelerates the rupture. What we have witnessed after the Canada Grand Prix is not simply a sports defeat. It is the reflection of a fracture exposed with crudeness in the most emblematic structure of world motoring. When Lewis Hamilton, the most laureate pilot of all time, decided to speak, did not do it by passing frustration. He did it because he understood that silence was perpetuating the decline. Ferrari has been a street paradox for years, a team loaded with history, passion, technical resources, but trapped in an inertia that prevents it from becoming a modern and sustained power. They have had brilliant pilots, moments of fleeting brilliance, but they lack a structure that projects them solidly. And in this 2025, everything indicates that this gap between potential and reality can no longer be ignored. And so the most important question of all is launched. Are we seeing the emergence of the Ferrari of the future? Are we witnessing one more repetition of the cycle of hope and disappointment that has plagued this team for more than a decade?